Hello, dear friends. I spent some lovely time with some dear friends recently. Some friends who are really deep. We have the real conversations always, and part of what came up was about being authentic and what it really means, and how can we be authentic in an inauthentic world that does not welcome authenticity. I did a YouTube about that not too long ago about, dare to be real or how to be authentic. And I want to say a little more about it because there is something so alive in our authenticity that we miss when we keep filtering it or damping it or hiding it. And one of my friends shared that Zach Bush had talked about what the highest frequency is. He says the highest frequency is not love, it's authenticity. And of course, when she said that, I went like, yes, that's so true. And just to add to that is that love to me is authenticity. It's being loving to myself. It's probably the highest form of self love when I allow myself to be fully authentic. There are many layers of us that are still unconscious and that are not yet connected with authenticity. But it's not about being different than you are. Being authentic is showing up exactly how you are in that moment. And there might be a lot of unconscious stuff, that we might just see the tip of the iceberg, and the rest of the is still unconscious under the water. So, but if we show up as the tip of the iceberg that we are aware of. And then we might also say, yeah, I noticed there is something else going on, but I don't know what that is yet. To me, that's being authentic in the moment. It's being authentic with what is happening for you in that moment. So it's not like, oh, I have to find out what is not conscious in me in order to be fully authentic. It's just the moment to moment. And I would say, in my experience, the more I am fully authentic in the moment, then suddenly I can see more. I can become more aware of something that I wasn't aware of before. And then I can also love that back into myself and by being fully authentic about it. The love part comes in that we are not beating ourselves up for it or shaming ourselves or whatever silly things we all do. That's not loving. Loving is to say, here I am. I'm not perfect. I have a lot of stuff that is not fully realized or fully incorporated or fully loved yet, but I can be with that in a loving, open way. Then, when we do that, we are fully authentic. We are as true and aligned with our inner as is possible. And therefore, that frequency that we are as the divine is not covered, is not hidden, is not held back. It's just allowed, right? It's just allowed. And then there is no problem. One of the problems that most of us have in the beginning is that we are ashamed of parts of ourselves that are not so spiritual, and therefore we hold them back. And then we hide our energy. It's not that we have to expose what we are ashamed of in a way that's not healthy or good for us. That would not be loving. But many times, owning it just to ourselves, just admitting to ourselves without blame or shame or anything, that, yeah, I still have this, whatever it is, I still have this anger, this jealousy, this not being fully honest, whatever it is. If we can own that and just be really authentic about that with ourselves in a loving way, we are as authentic as we can be in that moment. End of story. Then we are apparently in our highest vibration, because you can't be any higher than what you are present to and present with, because your presence is your vibration. So you can only, if you can allow it to be what it is moment to moment, not hiding it, not making it sound as if it's more than it is, not pretending, because when we do all that, we cut off our energy and our frequency, and we're not fully who we are. But when you come to a situation where you just look, I I don't know about this, or yeah, I've done that. If somebody's sharing a story, it's like you can say, yeah, I have done that too, or I still can find that selfish behavior in me, or I'm just coming up with some examples. It can be anything. There's no right or wrong in this. There's just the what is in this. And the more we can just show up with that and own it in a loving way, we are not hiding our light. So some of the conversation also was about, is it when I'm fully authentic that almost felt like that means I'm harsh? Have you ever had that? I think I shared some of that too in that other video about authenticity. And in the beginning, when we're learning to be more authentic and we're setting boundaries and we're, setting clarity, getting clear about who we are, how we like to live our lives, there is usually a need for some kind of an energy to really say, no, you're not going past this barrier here. You are not allowed. So that's when we set some very clear boundaries, because in the past, we have not. We have just let people walk all over us without boundaries. So when we start setting up boundaries, then it can be done with anger or with fierceness in the beginning, because we're not fully owning them yet. We're not fully feeling secure that it's okay to set boundaries, because when we grew up, it was not okay, right? So there is a lot of fear in that, in setting boundaries and being authentic, because we've all had experiences where that was not okay. Because, of course, that's the world we were born into, the matrix, where authenticity is not allowed. So there's these steps that we need to take to start setting boundaries and just finding out, when you have boundaries around you, you can start finding out, well, what is actually true for me? Do I really want this? But if we don't have boundaries, we just go along with what other people say without really checking in with ourselves first, without being loving to ourselves first. We're not leaving ourselves behind. We're just including ourselves. And it's very, very common to create a space, which is where we set boundaries, where we just have to say no to a lot of things so we can find out how to say yes to ourselves. So that's part of becoming authentic, to set clear boundaries. And they may be messy in the beginning, for sure. And that's also when we start setting boundaries and being authentic, it can definitely be experienced as harsh, specifically for those people who are afraid to set boundaries. So if somebody sets a boundary, that might feel like harshness to that person. And they may even say, you're so harsh. And here you're trying to, do it the way where you can be authentic and loving to yourself and also to others. But, you have to practice that a little bit first. So therefore, Yeah, it may be harsh in the beginning. It may sound harsh. It may feel harsh. And I don't know if there is a way around it. Unless you go live in a monastery or in the woods for a while, you just practice it. But it's very important to practice it with others also, because it's the other that was part of why we feel traumatized by being authentic. So, in order to heal it, we have to do it with another, where we have a new experience of it, where it's okay and it's safe to set these boundaries to be more authentic. So you see, there's a lot of layers to it. And then the next, when you might start feeling okay about it, you may not have to do it with that harshness, but there might still be others who feel it's harsh because they're afraid of setting their own boundaries. And therefore they just feel like, oh my God, that's too harsh for me, right? So that's another phase where you're not harsh anymore, but it may still be perceived as harsh. So it's not just that easy to be authentic. There's a lot of walls and barriers we have to move through. And then at a certain point, when we can just speak it from our own experience, sometimes it may come out very direct, and that may scare people, and they may call you harsh or whatever. But it may also be that you're not filtering yourself anymore. You're just letting yourself be who and what you are in that moment. And there's just a clear, no, that's not right for me. That doesn't have to be harsh at all. It can just be clear. So I want to say, let's not um, say that clarity equals harshness. It can, depending on, how many filters we need to move through to be clear, but it certainly doesn't have to. And that is something we will start feeling in ourselves. We will notice like, oh yeah, that came out a little harsh, or that came out maybe a little too direct. But in order to become fully authentic, we have to break through that fear of what other people think about us and what we think about us. That's really what it comes down to, right? That's if I don't think it's okay to be direct, then you can be sure that when I say things, it's going to have to go through that not okayness. And that's when it can show up as harsh. Not that it is harsh, but so let's not say that they're the same, because they really are not. But in order to be fully authentic, that's when we tap into a very high frequency of the divine that we are. We are not filtering it anymore. We're not pretending. We're not suppressing. We're not trying to be soft, or we're not trying to say it in a way so people won't be offended. And there are times when we have to do that. There are times where you might be speaking to somebody which you really know that they are very traumatized. They're so not in touch with their own sovereignty that anything you say, beyond a certain frequency, it's going to freak them out. They're going to be scared. They're going to run away. It's going to activate the trauma from the past, and they don't know yet the difference between the present and the past. Anybody who's direct, that may remind them of their parents who are very whatever direct. So it's a learning to move through the world and be authentic. Some people you can be 100% authentic with. Some people you just have to be a little less authentic or soften it, but you're still being authentic because you know that this is how we will stay in connection. And this is maybe the only way that this person can stay in communication with us without, the defense part. So being authentic If that is really our highest frequency and our deepest connection with the divine. Hello, I'm coming down. Yeah, that means we need to practice it. I think I mentioned that also in a previous YouTube about authenticity, that if we find other people where we can consciously practice that. This is something I'm kind of playing around with in my head right now, to have a smaller group where we deliberately want to practice authenticity. And that means that we are being brave. We may say it unfiltered, where before we might say it like this, and now we practice saying it like this. And then we feel what happens inside of us, and we also notice how the other person is reacting, is receiving it, whatever it is. And then we can start finding out, was it really harsh, or was there just something in you that got triggered, or projected something onto me? So you see, you can practice it then. I actually do that with my clients, which is very powerful because I can give direct feedback, because I always feel what's going on. So I can give immediate feedback how it lands. And then we can check out, what is going on there. And I feel I'm a pretty neutral mirror in that. I'm not saying may not have something come up, but if I do, I can honestly just say that as a mirroring back of how it might be received or perceived by others. So if this authenticity is really the highest frequency, don't you think it's time we start becoming that and practicing that? I sure do. And I will invite you, if there are enough people interested, please connect with me and let me know, because then I can start maybe a monthly group where we practice this. But I don't just start groups anymore. I used to, but I want to know if there is an interest in that. And if there is, I'll jump right in and we'll create a group, find out how we can actually practice that. Very, very powerful. All right, my friends, please like, subscribe, share, comment, and let's stay connected. Have a wonderful day.